You have feature film in a competition, safely not guaranteed. So this is your first directional debut. So what drove you to directing from writing screenplays?
I wanted to make less money, and I felt like the best way to do it was to get out. I was in the Hollywood system, and I was writing screenplays for Hollywood, and that was a joke. I'm sorry. I really wanted to see something on the screen that we had made, and Derek Connolly, who wrote Safety Not Guaranteed, and I had been in that system for a little while, and while it certainly can be lucrative, none of the movies ever get made, and so we wanted to be able to make something that not only we could sit and watch, but took certain narrative risks and maybe made some choices that a Hollywood film wouldn't necessarily get to make, while also telling a story that is very universal and big and has sci-fi and comedy and a lot of things that Hollywood movies have, just not in that same way.
Would you call yourself an auteur?
Well, no, because Derek wrote the movie. I think auteur, that word refers to someone who both writes and directs the films, and I think that the job of a director is to work with the story and help the narrative and bring out all of the themes and all of the elements in the movie that need to be on the screen. And so Derek and I worked on the script together a lot, but I can't overemphasize how important his initial contribution was as the guy who conceived of making a movie about this in the first place. And I feel like this movie is really so much more about the actors and the performances and the story than it is about the direction. And as I would say when we were on set all the time, if anyone is watching this film and thinks to themselves, oh, this is well directed, then I've failed, because I don't want them to think about that. I don't want them to notice that. I want them to be immersed and involved in the story and what's going on with these people.
Regarding the cast, these actors are coming, almost all of them from a television series. Is that a coincidence?
It is a coincidence. Well, it's part coincidence. These are the actors that I chose and the actors that I wanted. Yeah, they all happen to be on television shows, but I think that's because there seems to be sort of a farm system that's forming now since television stars, George Clooney kind of was the first, but, well, I guess Tom Hanks before him, but it seems it's much more common now that people will be on television and in movies at the same time. And Steve Carell has done it, and Tina Fey is doing it, and so I think that those worlds are blending, and it allows people to find their voice and find their presence on camera, and I just felt that each of these people were right for these characters, and they weren't necessarily at the level of fame that might have gotten us a larger budget. But to me, it was more important that you believe them as these people, and I felt the rest of it would fall into place as long as they felt real.
Okay, your career looks like that you are getting into trouble. You are getting more fame. So how are you going to manage to stay independent?
Well, I think that the idea of independent film often refers to the cost of a film. When people think about independent, they think, oh, this is small. And I think what I think is possible and what's important to me is to make movies that that are outside of the studio system, that are able to take some of the narrative risks that you're not able to take, and have characters that are a little bit more believable and a little bit more real. And I think that oftentimes, because these bigger Hollywood films are responsible for entertaining not just America but the world, and just like airplane food or anything else, when you have to please a great number of people, the product tends to get very bland because you don't want to upset anybody. And I think that what's great about making films that are a bit more modest in their size is that you can have some people who aren't going to like certain things, and you can do things that might turn some people off, and do some things that might end up surprising you and how much people enjoy them. I think the audience is smarter than they're assumed to be, and I think that people in America, especially right now, if you look at the past summer, the movies that people really attach to are Beasts of the Southern Wild and Moonrise Kingdom, and movies that are very different and very original. And I think that people are voting with their pocketbook and saying, I'm sick of the same old thing. I'm sick of seeing it again and again and again, and I want something that feels closer to my life, and something that really grabs onto me emotionally. And so I think think there's going to be room as we start to realize that these movies are making money, and so it's not necessarily just, you know, an economic. You're not in these economic shackles of saying I'm going to make an art film or I'm going to make a mainstream film. We're making films that have the spirit of art films that the mainstream is going to see. The Safety Not Guaranteed did the best in small towns around America, rural areas, and that surprised all of us. But I think it's an interesting message that, you know, people in the middle of Missouri showed up and packed houses for this film more than some of the big Hollywood films this summer, and that's interesting to me.
What do you think a film festival can help to a film? For example, Jameson CineFest. What can add to this?
Well, I mean, the film festival can allow people from any given country to see films that they otherwise would not have been able to see, and I think that, you know, the system in America for distributing, you know, is one of our biggest exports is movies and television. It's one of the only things anyone buys from us anymore, and so there's a system that spreads that all around the world, and you really end up seeing the same movies that you see in America. And I think that what's great about film festivals is that, you know, just like in the U.S., it allows people to have a taste of something that they probably will like very much, and I think it actually speaks very well of America. I don't know if America has, you know, we don't have the best image around the world, and we're not necessarily, you know, that well regarded in a lot of areas. And I think that showing that we have truly thoughtful, creative people who are you know, making new stories and making stories that people from other countries can connect to emotionally, I think can help in a lot of ways, because there's not a lot of opportunities for Americans to really show how we think and who we are, and the movies are really one of our few ways that we can do that.
Talking about taste, so at this festival, films and whiskey are in a good connection. Yeah. So, what's your relationship with whiskey?
Well, films and whiskey have a long history together, and whiskey's involved in the making of films and in the watching of films, and apparently here in the judging of films. And so I'm hoping that whiskey plays a real role in the judging of our film, and hopefully people like it better as a result. But I'm surprised. I've seen Jameson does a lot of support for a lot of festival and, you know, film-related festivals, and so it's something that I appreciate, and I hope to drink more of it in the future.